Hi, today I'm going to talk to you about learning and remembering jazz standards. So, my name's Graeme Norris. I have been playing jazz music as a saxophonist for almost 35 years now. I've played in Australia and in Europe and in New York as well. And I'm currently on faculty at JMI in Brisbane. So, my talk today is about knowing and playing jazz standards, which is at the core of jazz performance. And here at JMI, we want to create a world where everyone can play jazz. So the tunes that we play serve as vehicles through which we express ourselves as jazz musicians, but they also serve as a great resource for us to investigate and get to know as well as we can. As jazz musicians, as improvising jazz musicians, we are trying to achieve freedom, really. I think that's what it comes down to in the end, creative freedom. And for me, improvising is, it's really just like talking. Jazz is a conversational art form. You are having a conversation with yourself. You're having a conversation with the rest of the band on stage with you, and you're also having a conversation with the audience. So if you think about talking, regular, using language that everyone can understand, I'm sure that for most of us, when we're having a conversation with someone, we're not looking at books, we're not looking at devices to help us find words or to construct sentences or phrases. We just do it. And we can do it because we have internalized information and vocabulary and conversational tools. So this is what jazz is all about. And learning and knowing jazz standards provide us with our vocabulary, and they tell us what works. The melody and the harmony are in sync. The list of jazz standards is one of the longest lists in the world, without doubt. In fact, I quite often say that one life is not enough. But this should not be a source of intimidation. It should be a source of inspiration. So a couple of important points that I'll make right at this moment. First of all jazz musicians at some point at the beginning of their lives and careers had to learn their first tune. So you are no different from any of the great musicians that have come before us. At some point you've got to learn your first tune, and once you've learnt your first tune, then you learn your second tune, and then it becomes a little easier for you to learn 4 or 5 tunes, and then it becomes easier for you to learn 10 tunes, 20 tunes, etc. When I first started learning jazz, studying jazz, I did not know any tunes. But now I sort of know hundreds of tunes, and I've worked with people that have got thousands of tunes in their heads. So, it is a process. The best way really to know and remember tunes is to play them. So whenever you get the opportunity, play tunes with other musicians who you like playing with. That is the best way to learn them. But what I want to do today is give you a couple of little techniques that will help get you started. I think you should perhaps aim to learn, 4 tunes. I'm going to go through 4 tunes today that I think are good blueprint building block tunes. And if you learn those 4 tunes and become familiar with those 4 tunes, it will be easier for you to augment your library and your vocabulary. And it's very important to know the tunes and memorize them rather than read them, because we are, music is an oral art form. So if you're looking at a page or a device, you're playing music with your eyes, you're not playing music with your ears. And it goes back to that freedom that I was talking about earlier. If you have this information in your head, you will be free. So, the 4 tunes that I recommend to start with as building block tunes are Autumn Leaves, Honeysuckle Rose, I Got Rhythm, and of course the 12-bar blues. If you learn those 4 tunes, they set up all the building blocks for hundreds of other tunes. You know, if I'm learning I Got Rhythm, then that will help me learn The Way You Look Tonight, or My Shining Hour. In fact, My Shining Hour has elements of I Got Rhythm and of Autumn Leaves and also of Honeysuckle Rose. So if you learn those 3 tunes, it will help you learn My Shining Hour. And it goes, you know, Autumn Leaves will help you learn Softly as in a Morning Sunrise and Beautiful Love. You know, these are the building block tunes. All jazz standards are simply combinations of chord progressions and harmony. And so if you can put building blocks in place like this, it will help you learn hundreds of tunes. And it becomes easier the more you do it. It's like anything. If you do something on a daily basis and regularly and often, you will get better at it. So, as a starting point, I'm going to offer you this little suggestion. I'm going to play a C major scale on the saxophone. So this is a tenor saxophone. So I'm going to play in C. So in concert pitch, we're in the key of B flat. C major. So I look at that as C major, but I also look at that as a bucket of notes. It's a bucket of notes that contain, on the saxophone contain no sharps and no flats, all natural notes. I think of it as a bucket of notes because if I start that same scale on the second note of the scale, so instead of C I start on D, it's the same notes, but I'm just starting it from a different degree of the scale. So I can do that for the whole scale. Etc. through C, D, E, F, G, A, and B. And also, you know, as you're probably aware, scales have arpeggios that go with them. So you can talk about them as arpeggios or chords. So I can play chords off each of those degrees. So C major, the first, you know, starting the scale from C, I play C, E, G, and B, which is a C major 7th arpeggio. Then from D, I play D, F, A, C. Okay, so I've just played all the chords in the key of C. Now, the reason that this is important and I think crucial is because the harmonic language I was talking about before with these jazz standards is made up of versions of that. So, for instance, if I'm playing I Got Rhythm, the first 4 bars, the sequence is chord 1, chord 6, chord 2, chord 5, and then that is repeated. So it's a 4-bar phrase, 1, 6, 2, 5, 1, 6, 2, 5. That's the root notes of the chord progression. So if I want to learn that song, the first thing I do is I play those. The first thing I do is learn the melody, of course. But then if I want to learn the harmony, I play those root notes, which I just did. And then I'll say, well, maybe I'll play the root note and the third of the chord that I'm on. That's the first 4 bars of I Got Rhythm, playing 1, 3, 1, 3 of each chord. 1, 6, 2, 5, all in the key of C on the saxophone. Key of B flat in concert pitch. Then I might say, well, let's add the 5th of those chords. And then all chords are basically 4 notes, 1, 3, 5, 7. So now I add the 7th. And I've played through chordally the first 4 bars of I Got Rhythm. All right, so if you do that every day, you will start to internalize it both mechanically and orally as well. And from there you say, well, I'll try it in a different key, or you say maybe I'll ascend one of the chords and then descend the next chord, so like this. And just by playing these basic chordal outlines, you are actually starting to create melodies, and those melodies will work because you're playing what the song is telling you to play. That is the harmony. You are playing the harmony, and so it will sound good. And then you can start, once it starts feeling better under your fingers and in your head, you can mix up the rhythms, and the more you know, the more you will know. But you have to take basic steps. You have to be thorough, and you have to be systematic, at least to begin with. And like I said before about freedom, once you've done the basic steps, you will achieve more freedom. So just a little more, if we're talking about the song Autumn Leaves. Now, Autumn Leaves has all the chords that I just went through, one after the other. So Autumn Leaves goes 2, 5, 1, 4, 7, 3, and ends on the 6. And now at this point I have to make a slight change to my notes because the resolution chord, which I haven't got to yet, is chord 6 in the key of C, which is, of course, A minor. So that's the first 8 bars of Autumn Leaves, and I've just played all the chords in the key of C major. So for me, this was I guess it's a bit of a big realization. You can have one key signature that means more than one thing. That's why I think of all this stuff as a bucket of notes. So, Honeysuckle Rose goes 2, 5, 2, 5, 2, 5, 1. Basically, it's just a repetition of the 2 and the 5. And then when we get to the bridge, we go to the 4 chord. And of course, the blues, you have to learn the blues. It gets you familiar with 1 chord, 4 chord, 5 chord. And there are a million songs that are based on the 1 chord and the 4 chord and the 5 chord. Not just jazz, not just blues, but pop music, rhythm and blues, African music, Brazilian music. That's why I refer to this as building blocks, because they lay the foundations for so much more. So if you can get your head around this stuff, it will set you up well for learning more about harmony and learning more songs as you progress. So in conclusion, I guess my final words at the end of this class or this talk would be to be patient. All good things take time. I think that is a true statement. And I also think it takes a long time to realize that things take a long time. So being patient and playing the long game is definitely important. But if you do the basic work like this, then you will experience more joy as you forge ahead. So thank you for listening. Please, if you would like to leave a comment and engage with JMI, please feel free to do so. before I made this video, I was trying to think of the first jazz song that I ever learnt. And I can't say what it is specifically. I think it was probably Blue Monk, or maybe Now's the Time, something like that. But if you'd like to let us know what your first jazz tune was that you learnt, that would be very interesting. Or if you have any ideas about other tunes that you regard as core tunes, or even methods of learning the tunes, it's all interesting. All comments and engagement are encouraged. So thank you for your time, and I look forward to seeing you next time.